rebuilding. The catastrophic failure, a new start. Physically, mentally, our careers, our businesses. Step back, first step, next step. The driver in me just wants to get it done tomorrow. We'll do this, do that, let's move this, where are we at with this? You build some confidence, build some self-esteem, start to feel better about yourself. The Silverback Blueprint Podcast, a show for men over 40 who focus on getting stronger, staying motivated, building discipline, creating a community, and becoming truly happy. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Silverback Blueprint Podcast, episode number 26, Momentum. Momentum's a really, really cool concept, and we hear about it in physics. It's one of, what's-his-face's laws. There's 3 laws. I can't remember now. But my favorite one is when an object is in motion, it'll stay in motion. Is that Newton? Newton, that crazy fucking Apple guy. If an object's in motion, it'll stay in motion unless it's acted upon by another force. And I think life is very much the same way. We talked about a while ago about the first 3 things. We've talked about journaling and having rituals. And what's really important about those things is that when they're starting to get done consistently, they start creating momentum. They start moving you towards results, right? Now, if we're doing positive things, positive rituals, we're going to move towards positive results. If we're doing negative things, right, we're going to create momentum there, and we're going to move towards negative results. And that's really super important of a concept, I think, for us to keep an eye on, is that it's so hard to get something started. But once it's started, you want to keep that momentum going. You want to keep that load, in front of you in motion. So if you see guys in the strongman stuff where they're pulling a truck or they're pushing something, it's so hard to get it started. But once it's started, the key is to maintain the pressure. We talked about pressure last episode. The key is to keep that pressure up against that object, that goal, that task, so that it keeps moving forward. So a lot of, I use the term a lot, there's a lot of heavy lifting at the beginning. So anytime we go to start something, there's a lot of work at the beginning. But once it's going, once it's happening, it's much easier to keep it moving forward if we just stay consistent. So I'll give you an example. Look at this. Let's look at this podcast. I launched it back in 2013. I did 4 or 5 episodes. Then I just, got distracted, did some different things. Next thing you know, a week, 2 weeks, 2 months, 6, 3 years, 4 years goes by. So one of the things we did differently this time is that I have Luke from Podcast Wagon as our producer. We set up a schedule. We meet once a week. We have a whole list of things that we do that keep this happening more consistently. So what's the end result? We're talking right now on podcast episode 26, right? Way past what I did earlier and stuff. But at the beginning, right, there was a lot of organizing. There was a lot of hemming and hawing. There's like, well, how do we do this? How do we do that? It was getting used to working with Luke getting used to working with me. So there was a lot of stuff that happened before we actually got to recording the first podcast. Then once we recorded the first 4 or 5 amazing podcasts, there was the getting up in iTunes, and there was some fuckery with that. There was a couple of things that we had to tweak and that kind of stuff. So a lot of that took time and energy. Now, it wasn't crazy at the same token, but it took time, and it didn't give us the immediate results, right? And, as humans, we want immediate results. We want immediate positivity. I want to launch a podcast, and then there's a check in the mail for $500,000 the next day, right? Well, shit doesn't work that way. It doesn't happen, right? So that's that heavy lifting. That's that push and that lift to get things started. But here we are now. What week are we now, Luke? Week 5 that we're doing this now, right? Luke's nodding at me. He's got no shirt on. It's weird. So that it's much easier. In fact, last week, Luke took a week off, a vacation with his family, which is well-earned and deserved, and we should all do that. Not vacation with Luke's family, but I mean take a vacation. And it was weird. We both said the same thing. It was weird not podcasting last week, right? Because we've gotten into a good flow. It's kind of cool. We're having fun with it and stuff. And it's leading to a lot more things. So Luke's getting more exposure for Podcast Wagon. He's got other people coming on board with their podcasts. We're getting a lot of good feedback, through the Silverback Blueprint and at Hostile and personally. So it's really cool that, now that the momentum is there, a lot of cool things are happening, right? And, at 49 years old, I know that we get past that when we look at a new idea, we get excited, and we get excited about where it's going to be. We always say this: if I could just fast forward 6 weeks, and we're in the middle of it, it'll be phenomenal. But it's that heavy lifting, it's that heavy push. So once we go through that, it's so important to protect that momentum, right? So again, when we talk about rebuilding, for you silverbacks, getting better shape, getting stronger, healthier, fitter, tougher, stronger, it all starts with that first decision, and then start a couple good workouts, and then start adding things. So for us at Hostile, one of the things we use a lot is called the 30-day test drive. And the reason why I do that is so people come and try our boot camps and some of our different programs for 30 days. Without a big commitment. They're not committing to anything beyond 30 days. So we take that pressure off, right? Remember I talked earlier about good pressure, bad pressure? Well, in my industry, fitness and stuff, there's that bad pressure of like, I'm going to walk in there and they're going to try and sell me a lifetime membership and stuff and, that kind of thing. And, 500 personal training sessions. And if I don't do it, my husband or wife's going to leave me, right? Well, that's some fucking horseshit. And I hate that part of the industry. So obviously for us, in our culture at Hostile, we don't do any of that. We have hey, come spend 30 days with us. See what we're all about, right? We start with an orientation class. So when you start with a 30-day program with us, you have to take an orientation class, and it's typically run by me. And all we're doing is just getting to know each other, right? And seeing what's going on. And I use that orientation class. So you come in, you get to see where things are, take some of that pressure and anxiety off. Anytime we start something new, there's pressure and anxiety. And most of my clients coming in to see us are starting from a place of negativity. They're broken physically, they're broken emotionally, right? They're tired, they're sad, right? So how much harder do you think it is to start something under those conditions, right? That kind of thing. So we're pretty cognizant of that over at Hostile. So what we do is we say, listen, let's get you started. So the next thing that happens is, Mrs. Jones comes in or Mr. Smith comes in. They finally come in. They get down the stairs. That's the hardest part. They've walked in. We've had a quick conversation. We've greeted them. We put them at ease as much as possible. And next thing you know, they're getting started. They get a couple workouts in. Then the next thing that happens typically is like, well, what do I do next? And how do I eat? And I want to change this and I want to change that. And I always look at them and say, hey, let's slow down. Let's spend this 30 days. And all I want you to focus on for this 30 days is I want to see you show up 3 or 4 times a week. These are the classes we determine based on your level are right for you. Let's spend 30 days getting that consistency happening. Let's get you working out for 30 days. Let's get that momentum started. Then, after 30 days, let's add one more thing. So maybe that one more thing is, changing your nutrition a bit. And even with that, I'll be like, hey, let's start by just increasing your protein for the next 30 days. Give them some guidelines. Once they achieve that and they've built some more momentum, they've built some confidence, some self-esteem because things are starting to happen, they're starting to feel better physically and mentally, then we'll have the next conversation. Maybe we need to reduce some carbs. Maybe we need to start a food journal. Maybe we need to get them to go, look at one of our specialty programs. Who knows? But the difference is, the thing is that this is a conversation that's happening over day 1, 30 days, 60 days. As we're building momentum, as we're seeing, things get easier, right? Because don't forget, when they first started, just coming down the stairs was scaring the shit out of them, right? So it's about building that momentum. Coming in and not having worked out in 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years and trying to go balls to the wall in a crazy workout. Oh, I used to do this and I used to do that. And if we let them do that, they're going to be fucking mutilated. They're not going to be able to move properly. You know what that's going to do? That's going to disenfranchise them. This is going to, I can't move. I'm not going back in. Oh my God. I've had people push way too hard and have to call in sick the next day at work, right? And I'm like, let's not do that, because you know what? The odds of you getting past week 2 under those conditions are pretty fucking slim. So what I'd like to see you do is come in, get excited, get a good workout in, leave, come back in, still excited, that kind of stuff. Even chomping at the bit a bit and saying, oh, I could do more. I'm like, hey, I totally know you could do more. We'll do more next time, right? So that you keep coming in and we start building that momentum and we build that moving forward, and then it gets a little bit easier and it gets a little bit easier, right? And that object, that we're pushing against starts picking up speed and starts moving easier, right? And then if we want to change direction, it's a little bit easier. We can add something to it. Maybe we can, increase the load, but it's all done step by step. And always, and this is the big thing, there's certain fundamental things. We talked about the first 3 things. We talked about the rituals in the morning. That's why those are so critical, because if we maintain those consistently, right, we're going to be successful, because we're going to look back and we're going to see that we've got 90 days in, 120 days in, 2 years in. And then along the way, we're like, oh yeah, I lost 30 pounds. I'm a lot stronger now. I'm doing other things. A lot of other things happen, but it's about being that consistency and keeping that momentum going. Doing those little things that at first were challenging. And sometimes we get a little bit, take it for granted, or we don't realize just how important those things are. So we're like, oh, that's not that big a deal anymore. Let's do this. But it's those little things and those consistent ritual things that we do day in, day out that set the stage for us to be able to make these big changes down the line, right? The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Some smart guy said that. I don't know who it was. I don't know, I think it was that Newton guy. I'm just going to say Newton did everything, and then some of the times I'll be right, all right? You can send me a message and correct me and stuff like that in a negative post on Facebook, so I get all angry. But it really is about that momentum, right? And that momentum is important, and we want to protect that, and we want to, defend it, and we want to make sure we don't do anything to get in the way of it and stuff, because it's making the biggest difference overall, right? And that goes for anything we do in life, right? If we have to repair a relationship, if we have to improve a relationship, how many of you guys have been in a situation where you go out, you haven't hung out with your significant other? I say significant other because it could be same-sex people that listen to our stuff, and I'm all over that. I think that's fantastic. I just don't want to piss too many people off. But for example, you haven't spent time with your partner or your wife or your husband in a long time, and you realize you need to do that. So you create the date night thing. And you know what? That's a great thing to do. But how fucking awkward is that first one, right? You're like, hey, what do you want to do? I'm like, hey, I don't know. What do you want to do, right? Well, we can argue or have sex. We can do both, right? That kind of stuff. Let's throw a movie in between, space it out a little bit, right? But it's weird, right? It feels a little forced, but you got to go through that. And then it gets a little bit easier. And then it gets a little bit easier. Because when you first got together, it was easy. Everyone was excited to be in that room. And we didn't have the pressures and the stresses of life and all the other bullshit going on, right? So we got to recreate that. Take that 30 days and build that momentum, right? And that's the same thing we would do it, whether it's something at your job, at your business, right? It's the same thing. We just put a new online system in at the gym where, we got everybody registered and everyone can come in and sign in, and we can track a whole bunch of other things, and it just makes our business run super smooth. Now, again, I've had the idea to do that now. I wanted to do it for last year. I've been supposed to have been doing it for the last 6 months, but always a reason came up, always something came up, and some of them legit, some of them just bullshit, because I knew there was going to be a lot of fucking heavy lifting to get it started. But now that we're into it, and it's 2 months plus into it and stuff like that, it's running really well. It's getting smoother and smoother. So a big part of me is like, dude, why didn't you fucking do that a year ago when you said you wanted to do it, right? That's just the way things go sometimes, right? But at the end of the day, there was a lot of, the gym would close at 10 and I'd be there till 1 in the morning when it's quiet to work on this stuff. There was a lot of those nights and stuff. So part of me, human nature-wise, goes, oh, I'm not really looking forward to that, so you put that off. But I got to a point where I said, fuck it, enough is enough, get it done. And then now it's like, all right, I got 20 people in. Let's get 20 more. Let's get to the point now where, we're pretty much caught up and I'm learning more about the system. And the more I learn about it, I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I do this a year ago, 2 years ago, right? That's usually the big epiphany that comes from the positiveness of creating and doing the heavy lifting of something that's important, that's going to make a big difference and into how you do your stuff. So it doesn't matter if it's life, relationships, your business, your training, it's those small things, and get consistent. And the more we master those small things and maintain that momentum, the easier it's going to be and the more results we're going to have and the less starting and stopping and falling off the wagon that we're going to see and stuff. So the word of today is momentum, guys. Listen, that's all I got to say about that today. Please head over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating, subscribe, tell your friends about it, tell strangers about it. Kurt Haas at Gmail if you have any questions, comments, things you want me to talk about. Other than that, well, I have to tell you, I don't know if I did this in one of the episodes where I got a death threat email. Oh, I don't think I've talked about that. Have I, Luke? No, I guess that'll be episode 27, the death threat email. It was actually pretty funny. I'll talk to you guys later.